Hey guys, welcome back to Rachel Reads. My name is Rachel. I love to read and write Christian fiction, and today I'm doing Recent Reads number 1, part 1 of 2024. So really quickly to explain why it's a part 1, the last Recent Reads was in December, but since then I've read 39 books, which is about 2 months worth of books I want to say. And since I don't want to film like a 40-minute video and try to cut it down a lot, I'm just going to film 2 parts. So I'll talk about 21 books today. Just because I don't want to end the video on a bad note. I will talk about the rest of the books hopefully in next week's video, which should include a few more series that I finished by then. I might leave out some extra books that I've read in that recent reads just because I want to include some certain series that I'm currently in the middle of. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get started on 21 books I've read. The first book I have to talk about is A Cry in the Dust by Carrie Stewart Parks. This is Christian suspense. It was very interesting, I will admit. I found this at a thrift store. I think this is about Gwen Marcy and it's part of her series. But this is talking about the Mormons back in the 1800s and how there was this group called the Avenging Angels. And I'm trying to remember some of this book because I did enjoy it. It was very interesting and had some great plot points. And our character Gwen, while she did seem immature at times, I think she really had a great spirit overall, and I did appreciate the faith content in this book. From what I remember, there was more than I expected because it is published by Thomas Nelson, so I wasn't for sure how much faith content would be in here, and there wasn't any romance. I think if I found maybe more books in the series or got them from my library, I would definitely try them. The next book is Catching Christmas by Terry Blackstock. This was a reread, and it is a Christmas book, but I still really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. This is about Finn, and he is a cab driver who wants to be a chef, and he ends up getting calls from the same elderly lady every single day leading up to Christmas to drive her around for these different shopping things. It's really just a great Christmas novel. It's very heartwarming, a very sweet story. I would highly recommend it. And the next book I want to talk about is one of my favorites from last year, and that is The Enchanted Sonata by Heather Dixon Walwork. I gave this one 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It's a Nutcracker retelling with a little bit of a mix of Pied Piper. But mainly it is about Clara, who has her whole life planned out, and it's very interesting. That part did scare me a bit at first because I thought she was engaged to this guy and then there was gonna be a romance with the Nutcracker. It wasn't that way. She kind of was obsessed with this one guy whom she had never met, and then she met him, but then she met the Nutcracker and things turned out really well, and it was a sweet story. I don't remember if there was any allegory per se, but I really enjoyed the story, and it was just very clean, very sweet, a good Christmas story. And my 6-star reads from last year, and this is by an author here on YouTube, but that is Ari Audrey and The Legend of the Fire Rose by Christy A. Cole. I love this book so much. This is a like I said, a 6-star read, one of my favorites. This is all about Ari Audrey. Her parents begin taking her to a manor, but then something happens and then a time jumps and you see her kind of growing up in the manor as a teenager, and she learns different lessons, but you're also seeing her learn different things like gardening, but also fighting, and it's really interesting. And I love the whole aspect of them being in a school. I feel like we don't see that plot a lot in different sort of books, or if it is, it's one of the more popular secular books. But I'm really glad to see this in a allegorical book because there are some allegorical elements which I personally love. The next book I read, I'm just going to talk about the whole series at once, but that is The Tales of Ambia by Alison Tebow. Book 1 is The Reluctant Godfather. I gave that one 6 stars. That was so good. It's really fun. It's super short, but it's a sweet story. And then the other 3 books I gave all 5 stars, but that is A Royal Masquerade, Poppy's Peril, and A Flash of Magic. The Reluctant Godfather is a Cinderella retelling with a bit of a twist, and then A Royal Masquerade is a Goose Girl retelling, but it's from Bernardi's perspective. And Poppy's Peril is a prequel to A Royal Masquerade, but it is best read after A Royal Masquerade. And then the last one is A Flash of Magic, which is a collection of really short stories, letters, and different things like that, combined from a lot of different perspectives. So this entire series is really clean. There might be a little bit of an allegory, I'm not currently remembering, but there are really sweet romances. It's very clean. I think Lindsay from BFCG has a really detailed review on the first book, but I personally think the whole series is definitely suitable for YA readers because it's just so clean and so much fun. And I really enjoyed it. And in A Flash of Magic, I do want to mention there is a mention of like darker magic, but it is looked upon as wrong, and there is like good magic. So I don't want anyone to be scared of that because it's not like it's an accepted thing. It is looked upon as very wrong, and it is reconciled in the end. The next book I read is Married at Sunrise by Leah Loha Humphreys. I gave this one 4.75 stars. This is a King Thrushbeard retelling, and it's kind of set in like a Hawaiian island style, which is really fun to see. I personally love this book. It has a super great allegory, and I really enjoyed seeing that. I love our main characters, Dax and Helani. They were really interesting to follow. The only reason I knocked it down 0.25 stars is the romance was a bit more. I've talked about this a bit more in my videos, which it was really fine, and it's still clean. It has a few kisses, but it's still like really clean. I would compare it to probably Authentically Izzy, so if you enjoyed that, you definitely would enjoy Married at Sunrise, but I still loved it and highly recommend it. The next book I read is The Lies We Believe by Lisa Harris. I gave this one 4.25 stars. Because it is the first book, it is a little bit slower, but I feel like the pace will pick up, and I love this psychological aspect. I feel like we're seeing more of that come into the Christian romantic suspense side, but I love seeing that, and there are some really great themes in here, Christian themes, a very light romance to begin with. And the only reason I read it is because it was on Kindle Unlimited. I'm not for sure if it still is, so if you have Kindle Unlimited, I would recommend checking it out. It's definitely worth it. But I definitely would recommend this book. It was really fun, really enjoyed it. The next books I read are in a series, and I did read some books in between on my Kindle, but I'm going to talk about these all at once. That trilogy is the U.S. Marshal Trilogy by Lisa Harris. Book 1 is The Escape. It's about Jonas and Madison, and then there's this plane crash with two fugitives. One of them dies, which is not a spoiler, and then one of them is on the run, and you end up following them. And there is an overarching mystery with Madison and her husband, who has passed. I think it's been 5 years. And then book 2, The Chase, which is my favorite cover. I love the orange and the green and the Ferris wheel. And then this one is about a judge and a whole like drama with him. The 2 books I read, Chronicles of Illyria by Victoria Lynn. I really enjoy these books. Book 1 is Once I Knew, and book 2 is This Life of Mine. I gave them both 4.75 stars. And I really enjoyed them. This is really good non-magical medieval fantasy. I think that's the technical term. That's really detailed. I really enjoyed it. It was super fun. I love being in these characters' worlds. There's a mention of praying, and I don't know if it was in tongues or not, which I've never read that before, so because it was not described or clarified if that's what it was, it didn't really bother me as much. But I do want to put that out there because I'm not for sure, but I still really enjoyed the book and the plot and everything about that. Book 2, This Life of Mine, is about Marcus and Delara. This one, I don't want to say was my favorite because I enjoyed book 1 so much, but I really love Delara. This one does deal with human trafficking and a little bit of abortion. It is not really described at all. I think it's very clean and handled in a very good Christian way. The next book I read is Into the Fire by Irene Hannon. For one, I love this cover. It's really pretty. I gave this one 4 stars. I enjoyed it, and I do want to mention there is drinking by another character, but she is not like saved. And then the whole like probably that much or less of the book with Mark and Bree was so annoying with them. I mean, I still enjoyed the book and I bought it, and I obviously really enjoyed the plot and the little bit of faith content that was in there. But Bree and Mark in the beginning were so frustrating because
he kept thinking like, well, what does she think of me? I'm not going to tell my secrets. And then she, well, what does he think of me? I'm not telling my secrets.
And it was so I don't know if it was immature, but it feels very immature. I would recommend it. I know Katie from Paperbacks and Ponytails also read it, and I think she enjoyed it as well. So I definitely would recommend it. Just know that going into like the first 30% that it's gonna be a bit frustrating, but then it gets better. Next book I read was Counterattack by Patricia Bradley. I gave this one 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed this. This had some great faith content and a really interesting story, and the killer kind of shocked me. Our main character, whose name I cannot remember, is at a bar, and they kind of describe what she's wearing, but she is an undercover agent. So like there is a reason she's there. It's not like described to be in a weird way. It's described as like she doesn't want to be there. She's uncomfortable, but she's doing it for a job because they are following a serial killer, and she's like playing the role for the victim that the serial killer would kill next. The next book I read is Manor for Sale, Baron Included by Esther Hatch. I give this one 4.25 stars. I want to mention why. For one, it's not Christian, and while it was clean, there is like some slang words which I thought was weird, especially for like a Regency book. It was really clean. Besides that, I don't think the romance was too much because it was very short. Characters weren't exactly like all in love with each other at the beginning, so it took a while for the romance to come into play. So it was very clean in that aspect. And I did enjoy it. Next book I read is Dog Days of Summer by Kathleen Ubarbo. This is my first book by her, and I gave it 3.5 stars. Hi everyone, sorry for that abrupt transition, but my phone ran out of storage and ended up stopping filming, which means that I, of course, had to get more storage, and I do, so I can finish now. But I was talking about Dog Days of Summer by Kathleen Ubarbo. From what I remember, I was talking about how the book was fine and I did enjoy most of it. It's not my favorite in the series. The next book was A Cross Country Christmas by Courtney Walsh. I gave this book 2 stars. I did not like it. There were a lot of sexual innuendos, and I really did not appreciate that. I don't appreciate that. If you're going to write clean fiction, I personally think it should be really clean. And then the last book I'm going to talk about in part 1 of this recent reads is The Love Script by Toni Shiloh. This is one of her new contemporary Christian romances, and this is about Nevaeh and Lamont. Nevaeh is a hairdresser. Lamont is an actor, and Nevaeh cuts Lamont's mom's hair, but the mom ends up getting sick, so Nevaeh helps her out a little bit, and Lamont shows up, and then they walk out together, but then Nevaeh trips, and Lamont catches her instead of her face becoming like a floor pancake. He catches her, and so a photographer gets on his property and takes a photo of it, and it destroys Lamont's very Christian reputation because he is like this really good Christian, and he's reformed, and he's upholding really good standards as a Hollywood actor. And you just see the reactions he has to this kind of like reputation that he built, and then it kind of crumbles. But him and Nevaeh decide to fake date, and then everything kind of happens from there. Currently, I am reading a few books. I'm reading The Screwtape Letters and Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. I'm still currently working on The Story Hunter by Lindsay A. Franklin. I am like, I think a chapter or 2 more in, but mainly I am on book 4 of the Ilion Chronicles, which is Exiles. So that is all for Recent Reads Part 1. I hope y'all really enjoyed it. That is all for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope God bless you today, and remember, I do my best to post Tuesdays at 12:30, and I'll see you next time. Bye!